Hey, this is John Corabi, and you're listening to Music 101 with Alexis Steele. Turn it up.
Welcome to Music 101 with your host, Alexis Steele. Brought to you by Steele Entertainment. Find them on the web at SteeleTalentAgency.com. Sponsored by CNEU Radio. Find them on the web at CNEUradio.com.
Hi, this is Alexis Steele with Music 101. It's with great pleasure I have with me this evening a vocalist and guitarist, John Corabi. How are you, John?
All right. I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good, good. I see that you are originally from Philadelphia. You're a Philly native, like I am. What part of Philly?
Over the course of, without giving, totally dating myself, I was born in South Philadelphia. My dad was obviously Italian and born there. And then, back in the 60s, my parents bought a home in an area that used to be pretty nice, North Philadelphia, up by 8th and Roosevelt Boulevard.
I'm from North Philadelphia, 24th and Indiana.
Okay, well, we were just a little, I guess, a little east of that, and even I think north of where you were, like up by Roosevelt Boulevard, Hunting Park area,
sure.
Which the last time I was there kind of resembled Baghdad. But let me see. And then after that, I lived in northeast Philadelphia by Frankfurt and Academy, and then I got married, and I moved into an apartment in lovely Kensington section of Philadelphia, literally 1 block away from Kensington and Allegheny.
And I know a lot of people that lived in Kensington.
And they all have bulletproof vests.
Yeah, right.
No, I joke, I kid around, but my family still lives back there. I have brothers and sisters that live in Philadelphia, and my dad still lives in Cinnaminson, New Jersey, and so I'm definitely a Philly boy. Go Eagles! Woo!
There you go. There you go. Well, John, did you come from a musical family?
It's really funny. I was just talking to somebody about this. An interviewer that was a fan and asked me the same thing, and I'm like, I am the first person on either side of, my mom's side or my dad's side. Nobody in my family played any instruments at all.
Wow.
So I have no idea where I got the bug from. I have a distant uncle that used to be a producer back in the doo-wop days of Philadelphia, but it was like my dad's sister's husband's brother, so it was like a very distant uncle by marriage. But I have no idea where the talent came from or the bug or the creativity, but I'm the first. Okay,
so I guess you're the beginning of next generation or whatever.
Well, now it's
so
funny.
How old
now
were you when you seriously got interested in playing music?
I would probably say 7 or 8 years old. My parents bought me an acoustic guitar for Christmas, and I don't even remember. It's so far back that I don't even remember if I kind of hinted around and said that I wanted one, but I just remember them buying me an acoustic guitar. And I do realize that I had absolutely no talent, and I drove my poor parents crazy because I used to sit upstairs in my room and just strum the thing and try and sing, Beatles tunes and like Elvis songs and whatever my mom was listening to, and I wasn't even fingering the neck of the guitar. I was just strumming, and it just got ugly. But I probably got the guitar when I was 7 or 8, but I didn't really start showing an interest in it until I was about probably 10. Like, it took about a year or so for me to really kind of want to play the guitar.
Okay, so who were your musical influences back then when you first started out?
Well, it's funny. I would have to say the biggest one was seeing. I kind of got into the Beatles very late. you have to understand, like, by the time I was kind of getting into the guitar, the Beatles were breaking up or broken up. But I remember seeing a video of them on a TV show doing Hey Jude, which was probably 67 or 68. And then I remember seeing a video of them playing. There was like a video, almost like film footage of them performing Let It Be. And then I just kind of went back and, they did some reruns of like the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, and I saw that. And then I had friends that, were the same age that had already been into the Beatles. And my cousin Andrew, he had a couple Beatles 45s. It's a little side note for those who don't know what 45s are.
Right.
There used to be this thing called vinyl. And so he had a couple of the singles, and we used to just go into the basement and listen to like Ticket to Ride and Hello Goodbye and like all the stuff. And I just really, at that point, like it was Beatles. I just wanted to be like, there was something about them that I just thought was cooler than shit, and I just wanted to be like them. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my first real influence. Now, my mom she had a massive record collection, and she had everything, like, old Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard and Glenn Campbell, and then she had pop stuff like, the Raspberries and Badfinger, and, she just listened to everything. And so she constantly had music on in the house as well. So I was kind of hearing everything, Simon and Garfunkel, Mamas and Papas, and all this stuff. And I was just listening to it all. So that was a big thing. Like, I'd hear a song and I go, wow, that's a really cool tune, and want to try and learn it on guitar. And then eventually, when I was like 13 or 14, my mom for Christmas went out and bought me my first real dose of like rock. She bought me like 6 records for Christmas, the albums. And that was, what did she buy me? I know one was Deep Purple Machine Head. She bought me that. Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experience, Grand Funk, We're an American Band, Zeppelin 4, and then a Three Dog Night record.
Oh, great stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then at that point, like, I just remember going up into my room. The first song that I listened to was Zeppelin, the Black Dog, because it was the first song on the record. And as soon as I heard that riff, I'm like, holy shit, like, this is way more powerful than the Beatles to me at that point. Like, just the sounds and the guitars and the screaming, and I couldn't believe it. I was just freaking out. And at that point, I was hooked. Forget it.
And that was the beginning of it all, right?
Well, either the beginning or the end, whatever side of the coin you're looking at. So
yeah, I guess, yeah. So okay, so then from there, I assume that you, as a teenager, started playing in bands and into your 20s. So what were the early bands that you were in? That whether your own bands or other bands that you joined?
I was in a gazillion bands. I mean, it was just like friends from school, and this guy was like the great bass player, and that guy was the great drummer, and we'd put it together, and and then you'd wind up bickering. Like, I would want to do like Honky Tonk Woman, and two of the other guys are like, oh, that sucks, and I'm not playing the song. It's too easy, or whatever the deal was, and we would just have these bickering and arguments. And so it was just like this constant, endless progression of trying to get better and trying to find the right guys, and basically just trying to have fun and just play rock and roll. And at that point, my whole goal was just trying to put a band together that would be good enough to go play cover material on a regular basis in the club circuit. I eventually got there. It was, probably God, I probably started playing in the clubs when I was around 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
And then, one thing just led to another. And, I started in one band with, oddly enough, my first wife, her brother, and I had a band together. And we started playing, and then, again, people just kind of fell along the wayside because they weren't working out. And then I eventually just wound up joining another band that had members that were kind of established in the circuit, and then I went from that band to an even bigger band, and, and then I just got to the point where I just wanted to write my own stuff. I had played for 3 or 4 years, I pretty much played the cover circuit. And I just had this itch that I wanted to write my own material. So I just started, for lack of a better term, dinking around with my guitar, trying to come up with, the ultimate riff.
Okay, right. So I guess I'm sure a lot of our listeners are familiar that after Motley Crue parted with Vince Neil back in around 1992, you were chosen to replace him as a frontman. Vocalist. So how did that come about, actually?
Prior to Motley, I was in a band. I had moved to California from Philadelphia, and I was in a band called The Scream. We got signed to Hollywood Records, and we did a record with, again, one of my heroes, Eddie Kramer, legendary producer. And, we went out and we did a record, and we were all really proud of it. And God, we went out on tour for probably 7 months, 8 months, maybe longer. And while I was on tour, somebody handed me a copy of Spin magazine. Now, mind you, this was right around the time that Motley was just crushing the world with Dr. Feelgood. They interviewed Nicky. Nicky was on the cover of Spin magazine, and they basically asked him, like, one of the questions was, like, well, who are you listening to nowadays? And he went off on this big, like, I thought it was huge, but it was like a paragraph and a half of this band from L.A. called The Scream, and just how great we were, and he loved the songwriting and the playing and just all the stuff. So I had the magazine. I saw it. We were kind of winding down. It was right before the end of a leg of the tour. We were getting ready to go back out again. That leg was ending in L.A., so I got home. I hadn't been home in a while, and I just picked the phone up, and I called their manager to kind of thank them for the plug, or thank Nicky for the plug, and leave my number in case, when we go back in and do another record, just to see if Nicky would want to write for our next record with me. And it was weird. I got on the phone, and the girl was like, she was acting really weird when I was talking to her on the phone, the secretary at their management office, and she's like, well, can I get a number for you? And I'm like, yeah, no worries. So I left my number, and I was just packing up some stuff because we were getting ready to leave to go do a show in, like, Orange County, California. And as I was walking out the door, the phone rang, and my wife answered it, and it was Nicky. And she handed me the phone, and I got on the phone with him, and he said, John Corabi? I said, yeah. He goes, hey, dude, it's Nicky Sixx and Tommy Lee. And we chit-chatted for a minute, and basically they told me that Vince had left the band, that they had just, parted ways, and they wanted to know if it was a Friday, and they wanted to know if I would come down on Monday just to jam with them. They wanted me to audition for the band. And I said, I was just kind of sitting there going, yeah, okay. Okay, I'll come down. And it was, honestly, I didn't think I would get the gig. I just wanted to go down and meet them and just kind of thank them for the plug and, go jam with them and just see what came out of it. And, Nicky and I talked a couple times over the weekend, and they had lyrics there for me for a couple of their tunes, and I just went in Monday and I sang Helter Skelter, and I sang Jailhouse Rock, and Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away, and Shout at the Devil or something, and then they asked me to come back the next day, and next day I went in, all the suits were there, and they came in. I did the same thing. And then everybody was getting ready to leave, and I just kind of said, well, why don't we jam? You know, and it was weird. Like the first night all the suit guys left, and I hung out with Tommy, Nikki, and Mick, and we just kind of jammed. We played some blues, and then I just showed them a riff, and like that first night, we literally wrote probably 60 or 70% of the song hammered, almost the whole song. Wow. And we started working on the slow part of Misunderstood. And they just looked at me that night and said, well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. You're in. You're the new singer. And I was like, what? I just called to say thank you. You know what I mean? It was weird. So that's
was
pretty
quite
much
a shock
the story in a nutshell. What now?
I said, so it was quite like a shock to you.
Yeah, because, and I mean, I don't mean this in any disrespect. I told the guys this. If you look at my record collection, there was, you know, there's a few, look, I appreciate any music, you know, but for the most part, I think the 80s kind of went over my head. Because most of my records are all like Beatles, Queen, Aerosmith, Zeppelin, Grand Funk, Humble Pie, Free, Bad Company. Like, it's all 70s shit. And so it was funny, like I had been in the band a year. We had already recorded the record, and we were getting ready to rehearse for a tour when the guys realized, they were like, okay, here's the set list, you know, let's put a set list together. And, you know, so they asked me to help. You know, they're like, look, you got to sing the songs. So why don't you put a set list of songs together that you like, and then we'll kind of edit it, and, you know, we'll take out some stuff, add some stuff, whatever. And at that point, I'm like, well, I kind of felt weird, but I'm like, dude, I don't own any of your records. And they were just laughing about it. They're like, so have you ever seen us before live? And I go, no. So they're like, you don't own any of our records, and you've never seen us live before. And I'm like, that is correct. So it was kind of a weird thing. Like, I seriously just went to say, hey guys, thanks for the plug in the Spin magazine. That's what the whole thing all started with, was me just calling them to say thank you for the plug in Spin. And then all of a sudden it's like 4 days later, you know, and you got to understand at that point, Motley just came off the Feel Good record and the Decade of Decadence. So they were like one of the biggest bands in the world. And I was just like, okay, pardon my French, put your finger on the edit button, but I'm just sitting there telling myself, like, how the fuck did this happen? I had no, like, this, I had no words. So I just wrote it for 5.5 years.
Wow, that's unreal. Yeah, so it's basically, you know, stylistically you were like completely different, but yet it worked together.
Well, I mean, it worked in some people's eyes. Again, you know, there's other people that, you know, could have given a shit less. They could care less, you know what I mean? But look, at the end of the day, I had a great time with those guys. We were together for 5 years, and I still think the record that we did was amazing. And I think some of the other tracks that have popped up in box sets and compilation things, like some of the songs that we didn't even put on records, you know, were great as well. So from a creative point of view, I was very happy. I was happy with the guys. You know, for 5.5 years, we were inseparable, you know, great friends. And, you know, so it was cool. And, you know, my thing is, like, I don't mean that this is not a slag at Vince, but I'm just the kind of guy, like, I know what kind of voice I have. And, you know, if you listen to my voice, there's maybe traces of Steven Tyler or Steve Marriott or Robert Plant or one of those kind of guys. Do you know what I mean? But like, I love Steve Perry from Journey, but I can't sing like that. Mm-hmm. So I've never really owned a bunch of. Do I like the way Journey writes? Absolutely, I love their stuff, but I couldn't sing it, so I wasn't really kind of a huge fan of that band. And it was the same with Vince. Like, Vince's voice is a cleaner voice and much higher than mine. So I was never a fan. You know what I mean? So it's just
that
whatever.
Eventually led to, I guess, when you guys were writing the new album, I guess, which we wound up becoming Generation Swine, is when their label refused to fund the band the money to record and go on unless they brought Vince back, right?
Well, yeah, and in all fairness, I mean, I totally understand that as well. I mean, from a business point of view, you got to understand, like, probably 6 months before I joined the band, Motley just, again, their last studio record was Dr. Feelgood, and then he did a greatest hits record, Decade of Decadence, and they had a couple of new songs on it. I think they did a cover of Anarchy in the UK, and they did that song Teaser, which got a lot of radio airplay. I think they did videos for all those songs, and then they had a song for Primal Scream, a new original. So that record sold really well, and was right around that time Elektra came to them and renegotiated their contract and gave them like $40 or $50 million guarantee. And then 6 months later, they go into the studio, they call Elektra, or maybe a year later, because I was in the band for a little bit, and we go into the studio, and they, the label sends them the money, and there's this press release, and, it's like, well, wait a minute, we paid for these four guys, who's this dude? So from a business point of view, Elektra did probably what most shoppers would do, or most business owners. They said, all right, you know what, we'll give you guys one shot at this. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we want what we paid for.
Right.
So, even though we did two records, we still, both of those records that we did release, the Motley Crue record and Quaternary, was all recorded in the same sessions. So we had recorded like 23 or 25 songs or something like that, and we basically put two albums out at once, and then we started working on Generation Swine. And that's when the record label was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. We want Vince.
Okay, so after that, you wound up working with a lot of different artists and bands, which we're going to get into and talk about in a few minutes. But then, you were on your own doing your solo, and you have your acoustic solo CD that you put out on Ratt Records last year, around November of last year. Okay, So what I'd like to do is actually play one of those tracks off of your new disc, and then we'll get back to, be talking about some more stuff, okay? All right, so we're going to take a listen to Hooligan's Holiday by John Corabi, and we'll be right back on Music 101.
of the pie. Can't have mine. I'm on a holiday. Hooligans holiday. I'm on a holiday. Hooligan, yeah. I gotta get away. Hooligans holiday, yeah, yeah. I'm on a holiday. Hooligan, that's right. Nice and sloppy, boys. Cross-eyed derelicts are coming. Iron horse between our legs. And tattoos in black, the manes are flowing. Every day's a holiday. Everybody wants a piece of the action. No way. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. I'm on a holiday. Hooligans holiday. I'm on a holiday. Hooligan, yeah. I gotta get away. Hooligans holiday, yeah, yeah. I'm on a holiday. Hooligan. Oh, play it, boy. That's right. I like it. Break it down. Modern times, a new blood pumping, only the strong survive. Everybody wants a piece of the action. No way. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. Yeah. I'm on a holiday. Hooligans holiday. I'm on a holiday. Hooligan, yeah. I gotta get away. Hooligans holiday, yeah, yeah. I'm on a holiday. Hooligan, my, 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 my. Here we go. Hooligan, yeah. Come on now. Woo!
Hey, we're back with John Corabi talking about his solo career and what he's been doing over the last several years. John, tell me about some of the other bands post Motley Crue that you were working with, such as you were working with Union and also the Eric Singer Project, and I know you did several things with Bruce Kulick.
Yeah, well, Bruce and I kind of met through Nikki, and after the Motley thing, you got to understand, Bruce and I were leading extremely parallel lives at that point. We both had just been within probably 4 or 5 months of each other, we had both been let go of extremely huge bands. Both of us were dumped, you know, to put it bluntly. We, you know, he went through a divorce. My girlfriend of 3 years or so, she bailed. Just everything that could be going wrong, like, was going wrong for the both of us at the same time. And Nicky kind of always suggested to Bruce, he's like, you know, you and Corabi have a lot of the same influences. You should get together and see what comes out of it. So Bruce and I got together, and yeah, Bruce called me on the phone, and I went down to his house one afternoon, and, you know, after we therapeutically talked for about an hour and a half, we pulled out our guitars, and the first song that we wrote was a song called Around Again. And it was really kind of refreshing. I mean, Bruce and I are completely different people, like oil and water, but writing with him was very easy. And so we said, hey, you want to do this? And yeah, okay, that's cool. And we found a great drummer in Brent Fitz, and we found a great bass player named Jamie Hunting, and Bruce and I just went into the studio, and we wrote like 10 or 12 songs, and we wound up getting a record deal with a company. It was originally called Mayhem Records, but it wound up turning into Spitfire Records. And we did an album and a tour, and then we came back and we actually recorded a bunch of shows and a bunch of stuff, and we wound up putting a live album out right after our first album, and then we went back into the studio and we did a second record. And it's so weird because, like, it was one of those things where at the time, the band was we had some steam, but we weren't getting any radio airplay. We weren't getting any support at all from MTV, any of that stuff. And, at the end of the day, like, to just be honest, this is how we make our living. This is how we pay our bills, and so oddly enough, Bruce got offered the Grand Funk Railroad gig. I got offered to play guitar with Ratt, and then Brent and Jamie got offered to play, oddly enough, for Vince Neil's solo band. So we just kind of we never really split up. We just kind of took a break to go out and kind of make better money doing stuff for other people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The Eric Singer project was something that was started, obviously through Eric Singer, because of those KISS conventions. We went in and we jammed one time just doing cover material. It was me, Bruce, Eric Singer, and initially it was a guy named Carl Cochran that played with Ace Frehley's solo band. And we just went in and we just did stuff like All Right Now and Tush and just whatever we could think of. And we just did like this all-star jam at the end of this KISS convention. And a gentleman named Keith LaRue from Indianapolis, he thought it was such a great jam. He goes, he contacted Eric, and he said, I would love to just put you guys in a studio and have all of you guys pick 2 or 3 songs that you grew up listening to that you just love and kind of influenced you to be in a band. And it's weird. We did the record in probably 1998, something like that. And we were only going to sell it on like KISS merchandise websites just for the KISS fans. But as it turned out, like, KISS has been around for so long and they have such a huge fan base that we put the record out on the website, and then, this Japanese fellow who was a huge KISS fan was now a president of a record label in Japan. So he put the record out. And then a guy in Europe put it out. And then a guy in Australia put it out. And the thing wound up taking on a life of its own. And we've never done any gigs in America, but it's that one record in 1998, and we've done a few since then where like live DVDs or live records, different shit like that, but it's basically allowed us to go to Europe, Australia, and Japan pretty much every year for the last 14 years. And
wow.
It's been pretty cool. It's definitely a fun thing to do because there's really no pressure. We just get together and somebody will go, hey, let's play Sweet Leaf by Black Sabbath, you know, or maybe I'm a Leo by Deep Purple. And we'll just play these random songs and it just works. I don't know why. I think because it's not really a pressure situation. You know what I mean? We're just doing it as a side thing to have fun.
Right.
So
you were also a second guitarist in Brides of Destruction too, right? And on their album, Here Comes Bride.
I did the record with them, and then I did the record with them, but it was to be honest with you, I can't even remember, like, honestly, truthfully, what happened there, but I just I was going through a divorce, and I was kind of second guessing the music industry at the point, and you know, I just felt for me, health-wise and everything, like, I just didn't want to do it. And I didn't want to be the guy that just kind of did it for the money. I didn't want to do that either.
Was there a conflict between you and Tracy Guns?
No, not really. There was kind of because I don't really consider myself a difficult person to work with, but I think I was being kind of a thorn in everybody else's ass because I was looking at the record and I was going, I was saying things like, well, what are we trying to do here? Like, are we a rock band? Are we a punk band? Are we a ballad band? And as much as I love, you know, diversity on records, I just felt like it was just so drastic that, and I was voicing my opinion. And one of the other things that, you know, that I've mentioned before is that we had a song called Life that Nicky wrote. I believe it was with James Michael. I could be wrong. But he wrote the song with an outside writer, and he brought it to us, and we were like, wow, this is a great song. And we worked it up, and it was a great kind of power pop rock song. And the thing that didn't make sense to me was that, like, everybody was, like, all the interviews that everybody was doing, they were going, London, 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 you know, the singer London LeGrand, they were going, London's the greatest singer that, you know, blah, blah, blah. And Nicky was like, oh, he's so talented. And Tracy was like, he's so talented. And I thought London was extremely talented as well. But then it was weird, like the one song that I felt had the most potential to be on the radio, London wasn't singing, the drummer was. So there was all these little things, and I just kind of felt like I was being like the nitpick guy that was being, you know, for lack of a better term, the downer guy, as Nicky would call it, because I was questioning everything. You know what I mean? So instead of just going out, sorry, Mom, instead of going out and doing the, you know, the easy thing for me to do, for me to have done, would have just kept my mouth shut, signed the record deal, went on tour, collected my money, and just let it go. But at the end of the day, there were certain things to me that didn't make sense. I had to say that they didn't make sense. Whether they did or they didn't, that was just my opinion. And you know the old adage, opinions are like assholes, everybody's got one.
Right.
So I basically stated my case, and then, you know, I think it just got to the point where it was like, okay, well, we'll go write the record and you'll just play on it. And I just said, nope, not going to do that. And I left. It wasn't really Tracy. It wasn't really Nicky. It wasn't Scotty. It wasn't London. I just think that I was the one that was gone, like, well, what is the, you know, because every band, I don't care who it is, Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin can go out and do something like Black Dog, and then they can do Going to California, and then they can do this or that or like, you know what I mean? But there's still a thread where it's still Led Zeppelin.
Right.
And I just kind of felt personally that thread wasn't there. And that's what I was kind of nitpicking about.
Sure.
So I was being the downer guy, I guess.
Now, in 2008, you did the Motley Crue with Vince Neil and a bunch of other artists, and you actually shared the same stage and microphone with him, and you guys did Highway to Hell together?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess that was the first...
Vince and I are fine. That's the funny thing. Like, I met Vince when we were doing the Generation Swine record. Vince and I saw each other every day for a month because I continued to work with the band even after they brought Vince back. And Vince and I are fine with each other. I mean, I sat there in Nikki, because we recorded it at Nikki and Tommy's house, a lot of it. So I sat in the garage with Vince, and I kind of expressed my, sympathies about the loss of his daughter. And he was aware of the fact that my son was a diabetic. We talked very briefly. He's like, hey, dude, no hard feelings, no hard feelings. I know you had nothing to do with me leaving or getting fired or whatever you want to call it. But he also knew too. He was like, I was hoping you wouldn't have an issue. Like, and I was kind of wishing you luck, but I wasn't kind of a thing. But he said, I knew you were going to have issues because, not to sound cocky, he's like, these are big shoes to fill. So we were cool with each other, and even when I played guitar with Ratt, we did a couple shows together, and I walked right over to Vince's trailer, and I knocked on the door, and he invited me in. And like I said earlier, my guys from Union were playing with him, so there was a couple of times when, Ratt had a day off in Cleveland, and I went to go see Vince there, and I sat on the bus with him the whole day. So Vince and I are fine. We don't dislike each other. He knows why I did the thing that I did, why I joined the band. And I know that Motley Crue will always be Vince, Tommy, Nikki, and Mick. I'll be an asterisk, but those four names will always be Motley Crue. So we're cool with each other. But it's weird, like everybody thinks we hate each other, and it's farthest from the truth.
Well, I guess everybody would always assume that something like that, you know what I mean, due to the situation, that there would always be some animosity, between the original...
you know what, honestly, though, on my part, I don't know if there is on Vince's or not, but at the end of the day, for me, I'm a firm believer in the fact that it takes just as much energy. It's an equal amount of energy to be positive about something or to be negative about it. And
right.
I don't have the time to be, and I truly, for whatever, call me spiritual, call me whatever you want. I believe in karma, you know what I mean? I believe in, just bowing out of things and trying to get up every morning and just be grateful for the things that are given to you. And people ask me, well, how do you feel about Motley Crue? And I'm like, you know what? I had a great time, and here I am 15 years later, 16 years later. I think, that name tag has actually given me the opportunity to continue to do records, continue to travel around the world, continue to do interviews with people that give a shit about what I have to say or not have to say, and it's actually given me the opportunity to pull fans in to watch me play. So I have nothing bad to say about those guys at all. I'm glad it worked out for them. We can all sit here. I'm sure even the guys in Motley could sit and look at their schedules and their lives and think, wow, we'd love to be, we would love to be Justin Timberlake-ish as far as business goes. And, would I like to be bigger and selling more seats and selling more this and so? Of course I would. Everybody does. But I'm not going to sit here and whine or bitch and be negative about something that happened 15 years ago. You know what I mean? So, and just to remind myself that, I have tattooed on my chest in Italian. It's a phrase. It says, "Love, como." Wait, I can't even remember it, but whatever. In English, it means life is as it should be.
Very cool.
Just make
That's
the best of it.
Well,
La vida è come, yeah, that's it. La vida è come dovrebbe essere. It means life is as it should be.
Do you speak Italian at all?
No, that's about it. I'm Italian, and I'm the only one in my entire family that doesn't speak any Italian. For some reason, my parents never taught me Italian. All my cousins speak it, everything. I'm the one sitting in the corner by the meatballs going, I wish I knew what they were saying.
Pasta fazool, and then all the curse words and stuff like that. That was about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, we'd like to get back to your solo music and your recent Unplugged CD. And we're going to play another song, another track. And I just wanted to ask you about this, listening to your CD. Was there a theme on your CD? I see a lot of songs about love, maybe about hurt and family. Was there a particular thing you were thinking in mind when you put together this CD?
No, I just wanted to, like some of the songs, well, basically most of the songs that I write lend themselves to acoustic anyway, because all of my music that I write, that I've ever written, has always started out on an acoustic guitar. So there's some stuff in there like Hooligan's Holiday. There's another one called Everything's All Right. That
we're going to be talking about that.
They're great electric songs, but I just kind of wanted to strip them down to their simplest form and just see what I could do with them. I had a great help from this gentleman named D.A. Carcos. He played guitar on the record. He's a great producer. He's amazing with harmonies. And the bass player, Topher Nolan, Cheney Brannon, the drummer, and then another gentleman named Matt Farley. They all helped, and the contributions there were amazing. They kind of got what I wanted to do, and
yeah, it has a lot of really great harmony-driven songs, like the song that we're going to be playing, "Love, I Don't Need It Anymore." It's got a great groove to it, and it's very harmony-driven. I love that.
Yeah, well, that's a Union song that was on our first album, and that one I just wanted to put on the record because I do that live electrically, and I do it in all of my acoustic sets. And for some reason, I don't care where I go, whether it's South America or anywhere in Europe, I just do it, and the audience just winds up singing along on the chorus. So it's just one that works. Absolutely.
All right, well, we're going to take a listen to Love, I Don't Need It Anymore by John Corabi, and we'll be right back on Music 101.
Morning light lands on her face, another day begins. In her eyes there's the story of a lover who's been disappointed once again. So she combs her hair, washes her face, sings her favorite song, forces out a smile. Now a song is sad, but a world is strange. Everything she held so dear, it's all on trial. She said, love, I don't need it anymore. She said, love, lies in pieces on her floor. Love, I don't need you anymore. She said, love, it's walking out that door. Daydream weaver paints a picture perfect in her mind. Make believer, the author of a story where the ending always turns out right. a cigarette with her head in her hands, keeps on asking why. All the family comes as the good luck goes, crying up a river, river's about to run dry. Oh, she said, love, I don't need it anymore. She said, love, lies in pieces on her floor. Love, I don't need you anymore. She said, love, it's walking out that door. On her floor, love, I don't need you anymore. She said, love, it keeps walking out, love, I don't need it anymore. She said, love, lost in pieces on the bedroom floor, love, I don't need you anymore. She said, love, I said, honey, bye-bye.
Okay, we're back with John Corabi. John, who is in your current band lineup? I know you said there was a lot of different people on your CD. Is this your actual band that you're promoting your CD with?
Well, the bass player is the other two guys. Daniel's been so busy, or DA's been really busy. He's been producing the new Jerry Gaskell record, and he's been producing quite a bit here. He lives in Nashville. He's from Rochester, New York, and so he came down here and he was playing guitar with me for a while. But he's just gotten so busy doing his thing, and the thing with Daniel is he was initially a lead singer, and he came in, and like I said, he's great with harmonies and great guitar player and all that other kind of stuff. And I think at the end of the day, like, Daniel just kind of misses being the guy, the lead singer guy. But so it's funny, like, some of your listeners may know that his brother, DA's brother, is a guy named Virus that played with Dope. And so they had a band together years ago. I believe it was called Black and Blues. So I think they're putting that back together again. So Daniel's got a ton of stuff on his plate. So I don't think Daniel and Cheney are going to be with me, but Topher's he's still hanging out. And I think at this point now, my son just moved from California to Nashville, and we're actually going to start rehearsing next month. And I think I'm going to try and work my son into this thing as the drummer. So.
Oh, cool! So your son plays drums.
My son is a badass. He's a great drummer. He was in LA for his whole life, and he was kind of getting into some shady shit. So I brought him out here to hang out with Dad, and we kind of sat down when he first got here, and he had a heart to heart, and he just basically said, Dad, one of my, like he was in a band called Moreau, really, really heavy band. And he basically told me, he's like, man, I went out and I toured with those guys, and, it was really difficult. And he's like, but ultimately, I just wanted to always play in a band with you.
Oh,
so cool. I'm like, all right, let's do this. So we're going to start rehearsing and, get him,
so are
get
you
him
in
into
Nashville
a room.
now?
Yeah, I live in Nashville.
You live in Nashville now. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, I want to play another one of your tracks that we had mentioned before, Everything's All Right.
Mm-hmm.
I hear, now, I don't know if you'll be offended by this or not, but I hear like an Alice in Chains kind of sound to this song.
No, you'd be spot on. You know, it's funny, I had another one of those side bands for a little while with Jerry. And we had a band, Jerry and I and Billy Duffy from the Cult, we had a band for a little while called the Cardboard Vampires. And, you know, I've always been a fan of the Cult, always been a fan of Alice in Chains. I just like good music. And when we were kind of dicking around with that version of Everything's All Right, sat down my guitar player, D.A. at the time, he's also a very big Alice in Chains fan. So we were just sitting there going, let's really kind of do these harmonies a la Alice in Chains, and let's try and do something cool and trippy with it. So the song itself is basically a tip of the hat to the Beatles. If you listen to the lyrics, it's all, when I was initially writing the song in Union, I had the music and the melody, but I had no lyrics. And I just heard a couple Beatles songs with my son. We were in the car, and I just kind of sat there and I thought about it. Like, my son, like this, there used to be a station in LA that just played Beatles 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And he loved that station. And I just sat there and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, this is a band that, like, my parents loved, I loved. Now my son's going to love it. I go, this is something that's never going to happen again, ever. That kind of, that magnitude of influence. And I just went home and I just started writing these lyrics. And what I did is I took a lot of Beatles song titles and I put them together to try and make some kind of like trippy, surreal sentences out of them. And it's a tip of the hat to the Beatles.
Okay, very cool. Well, it's a great song. And we're going to let our listeners take a listen to it right now. And we'll be right back with more from John Corabi.
Another man, but that's okay. I never loved her anyway. If that's the way you want it, babe, I never loved you anyway. You drink up all my whiskey, and I'll pick you up when you fall down on the floor. Spending all my money, then I find your ass walking out the door. Bye-bye. If that's the way you want it, babe, well, I don't love you anymore. Baby, listen what I say. If that's the way you want it, babe, I never loved you anyway. Oh, play it, man. Woo. Come on.
back with John Corabi. John, what do you think about the state of the music industry today as opposed to when you first got your start?
Well, it's definitely different. But you know what? Look, like anything, it's evolving. I think people are trying to figure out how it's going to work. And, the technology has been amazing. In one hand, like, you've got the acoustic record and you listen to that. And to be quite honest with you, I recorded that entire record in my living room. I have a little home studio, like Pro Tools and all that stuff. I recorded that whole record in my living room. So on that part of it, the technology, the advance in technology has been great for me to be able to sit down and do a record for $3,000 in my living room. But on the other hand, it's kind of created this thing, this other giant, and that's like studios, all these great studios that have been around for years and years and years are now just kind of falling by the wayside because they can't keep up with the technology, and bands are just able to record their records for so much less at home or in a recording or in a rehearsal studio that they don't need the studios anymore. It's also worked out too. So the technology has worked out to the point where I can pretty much take anybody that can remotely sing a song and put them behind a microphone and then auto pitch and correct their vocals to the point where I can make them sound like whoever I want. Mm-hmm. And so that part of it's great, but then you go to see the bands, the fans go see the bands live and they're like, oh my God, that guy sucks. So
right.
It's just kind of in this weird thing right now. A lot of record labels are falling along the wayside because of, things like Facebook, MySpace, Reverb Nation,
right.
YouTube.
The indie labels are actually bigger than some of the, going with the major. A lot of artists are doing that nowadays.
And it's funny, like you look at it, like back in the day when I was getting, my first record deal was for like $250,000, $300,000. So we were in debt before we recorded one note of music. And so now it's just weird. Like I can do a record, I can record it in my house, get all the artwork done. I've got a ton of friends that are artists and computer graphics artists and stuff like this. I can have a friend do the artwork and literally walk in and hand a record label a finished product with the artwork and say, here's my album. Do you want to put it out? And they'll say, sure, we'll put it out.
That's what you have to do then, and promotion.
Right, but now, like, I get on Facebook, I get on MySpace, I do all my own promotion. My record label helps out, too. They have access to all of my websites. So they're constantly flooding my stuff. I'm constantly interacting with some of the fans all over the world, and it's just word of mouth. And it's kind of a grassroots thing that I kind of dig that part of it. And then to boot, when a record sells, like if the record label makes $1, like before, if with the big record label, with the big deals, if they made $1, you get a dime.
Right.
Now, if they make $1, I get 50 cents. So it's
more profitable for you now.
What now?
I said it's more profitable.
I mean, you're not reaching the MTVs, and you're not reaching, like a lot of the even the big magazines, like your Hit Paraders and your Cream and your Circus and Kerrangs, and all those magazines have kind of fallen off to the wayside too. But for every one of those magazines that falls off the wayside, when I did my record, I was probably doing 10 or 12 interviews a day with people that had internet radio stations, fanzines, webzines, like all this other stuff. So for each one of those magazines, I was doing like 20 or 30 other things to make up for it. And it's working. It's slow. It's not like you know, it's not like, you know, I put my record out and it just shoots into, you know, the number one slot. But I mean, you know, just in the last month or so that my, you know, or a couple months at my record label, Ratt has, you know, they kind of pulled some of their girls in to help me with some of the web stuff. And, you know, my Facebook likes, you know, on my page in the last couple months have jumped from like 7,000 to like 23,000. Wow. So it is growing. I see it growing. You know, so it's just being patient and just trying to go out and do the best you can musically and just self-promote, you know, and just be hungry about it. But, you know, it's no different than when I was in LA and I was starting out there. All those bands that were, you know, that are now huge, like Poison, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, all those guys, that's what they had to do. They paid to play in a lot of these clubs, but they had to make up their own flyers. They had to dress up every day. They were down on the strip. They were giving their shit away. They were handing out flyers, inviting girls back to their house. So they were doing all this stuff, and it's kind of basically back to that on a global level. You know what I mean? So I kind of dig it. It is cool.
Well, what advice would you give to newcomers that would like to break into the industry? What would you tell them?
You know, honestly, it's not an easy ride. You know what I mean? Like, just have thick skin. If keep your faith in yourself. Just believe, man. You know, like. I really am a firm believer in thinking positive, and positive things will happen for you. You know what I mean? So don't let anybody tell you that, you know, you can't do what you want to do. If one human being can do something, another human being can do it too. It all depends it really depends on faith and just hard work and perseverance. And I mean, if you think about it, like, you know, the Beatles were denied more than once by pretty much every record label in England before they actually got a break. And look what happened for them. And then another one, you know, that comes to mind is, you know, a band like Rush. You know, they sit and listen to the band, and I mean, I just watched this thing on those guys, you know, the making of the record 2112, and at that point in their career, people were just busting their balls about how horrible Geddy Lee's voice was. And, you know, they just losing faith in the band because they had done 2 or 3 records and nothing came out of it, you know, or it was very little reward. And, you know, it's just stick to your guns, man. Even Peter Frampton did a couple solo records, couldn't get arrested. And then he decided his last opportunity, just, you know what, I'm just going to do a live record to satisfy my contractual obligation to the record label. And he did Frampton Comes Alive, and look what happened. It's just believe in yourself. Just keep plugging away and just do your thing, and don't let anybody tell you don't let anybody kick your dream out from under you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, where can listeners find your music and purchase your new Unplugged CD?
They can purchase my music at a Best Buy in Bulgaria.
Oh, in Bulgaria. Okay.
No, I'm kidding. It's available on iTunes. I was trying to say YouTube and iTunes at the same time. It's available on iTunes. It's available on RattPackRecords.com. Let me see where else. Amazon. It's there. It's in certain Best Buys and Borders and places like that. Just they look for it. They can find it. It's out there.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this interview with me. And we're definitely looking forward to a lot more great music coming from you, and hopefully get out to see a show.
I hope so, too.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, John,
right,
and you have a great night.
All right, you too.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hi, this is Alexis Steele from Music 101. Stay tuned to hear what's happening from your favorite national recording artists and get my answers to your music industry questions.